Well, since launching Freedom to Marry formally in 2003, the most important change has been that we've won the freedom to marry. When I put the idea for the organization forward, I wrote a piece called The Blueprint and published it in The Advocate and said that we could win the freedom to marry in at least one state within the next 5 years. And I wrote this in 2001. And people then thought either he's crazy or thought, well, he's right, we're going to win this eventually, but 5 years, that's really pushing it. Of course, we wound up winning the freedom to marry first in Canada, not a state, but certainly a close inspiration, in 2003. A few months later, won it in Massachusetts, and went on to win it ultimately in 2008 in 2 more states. So the biggest change since launching this organization is we now have the freedom to marry in 2 states. Same-sex couples, as of March 2009, are able to legally marry in 2 states. In several other states, we have won steps toward marriage through measures and mechanisms called civil union or partnership that, although not marriage itself, they're non-marriage marital statuses that have been created in response to the work for the freedom to marry to both give and to withhold. They're intended to give many of the protections that the freedom to marry fight have clarified needed to be had, but to withhold the full dignity and respect of marriage itself, as at least for now. So because of the freedom to marry work, we now have about 6 states that have enacted essentially sweeping, across the board, parallel mechanisms intended to provide many of the protections and responsibilities that come with marriage. And those are states like, I should be able to do this off the top of my head, currently Vermont, New Hampshire, New Jersey, Oregon, who am I missing? The District of Columbia, and as of actually currently, well, it's not official yet, but the Washington State Legislature just began moving this path, and the governor is going to sign it, Washington State, where we have either, and Oregon, where we have either civil union or partnership, but essentially an all but marriage status that has come close to, but not yet fully fulfilled, the freedom to marry itself. Then we have a number of other states, Hawaii, Maine, and there's one other, where we have begun providing some of the protections that come with marriage, although not even yet a full parallel status, a la a civil union or domestic partnership. And then there's a category of states that don't yet have a statewide legal status, whether marriage or something close to marriage, but will honor the status created by other states, or will honor the legal relationships, the most important of which being New York State, where although same-sex couples cannot yet get married at home in New York, if they go to any of the states around New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts, that do have marriage, and come back home married, New York will honor their marriage just as it honors the non-gay couples who get married somewhere else and come back home or do business or work. So the important thing to realize about this is the 2 states that have marriage, Massachusetts and Connecticut, California, where we won the freedom to marry only to have it temporarily taken away, and we will now restore it sooner than people think. The other states that have moved in the direction and are on the verge of shifting from civil union to partnership to marriage, the other states that are beginning their journey, whether by fighting for marriage, as in New York, or by taking a step through civil union and partnership to marriage, all of this array of protections and responsibilities and advances and the attainment of marriage itself didn't exist just 10 years ago. So it's an amazing historical shift and accomplishment, with obviously still a huge amount left to do, because 2 out of 50 is not yet good enough. We're not done until we have all 50. At the same time, the right wing has been assiduously working, abetted by the administration over the last 8 years, one of the worst in American history when it came to respect for equality and civil liberties generally, as well as for same-sex couples and gay people, to create an additional layer of discrimination in as many states as they could. So in almost 30 states, there are either constitutional amendments or reinforced anti-gay laws that add to the discrimination that already exists by saying you can't have marriage, no, we really mean you can't have marriage, no, we mean you can't have marriage. In other words, piling law upon measure to reinforce the existing discrimination and the denial of the freedom to marry, as well as, in many cases, to attempt to preclude even the enactment of other mechanisms that are not equal to marriage, but that might provide some protection, such as civil union or partnership or so on. And so the country right now is in what I call in my book, Why Marriage Matters, a patchwork, in which some states are advancing to equality faster, while others resist or even regress. But as I point out in Why Marriage Matters, that's the classic pattern of civil rights advance in America. It always happens that way. In some places it gets worse before it gets better. Some have to go first in order for others to see that the sky doesn't fall and follow. And that's precisely the pattern, the patchwork pattern, that our civil rights struggle is following in the United States as well.